Hey there, this is Joyce Sang, content marketer and founder based in Hong Kong. I help those with an entrepreneurial mindset explore their full potential with content. For those of you who've seen other videos on my channel, you notice that the setting for today is slightly different. For today's video, what I want to do is to show you the steps that I take in order to identify the content I can adapt so I don't have to be constantly churning out new content myself. And of course, how you can utilize AI writing assistants to help you create these content at ease. If you're new to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get to it. So the first thing is, in order to know what content you can adapt, is to know what content you need to produce. Now, obviously, coming from a content marketing standpoint, the first thing you really need to have is your content strategy. And within that content strategy, you need to identify your content framework based on what your brand can provide as well as what your target audience persona is looking for. Of course, for those of you who wants to know a little bit more about content strategy, feel free to check out my video here as well. Now, going back to this document, I want to show you is how I've actually broken down my content for Joyce Sang Content Marketing. As you can tell on the left here, I do have 3 content pillars. Usually for any brands, big or small, 3 to 5 content pillars is good and enough. For me, I have my first one, which I call as legitimate mentor, second one being equip yourself, and third one being we're no different. Now, all of these has been named for my back-end usage when it comes to the organization of my content, so they don't actually show up in the front end. However, they're very important because they help align what I need to create for each of these open-ended topics. Now, for here, if we were to zoom in legitimate mentor, what you would see is that this pillar is all about monthly reviews, how I've overcome personal struggles, what are my actual achievements, as well as the testimonials that I have received. So it's all about creating content based on these things. Now, these content, therefore, are to drive inspirations for my audiences in order to land on any kind of conversion for me. Now, when it comes to conversion in this sense, it might be a click-through, it might be a download, it might be a view. It's not considering a sale. So for other people, it might be a sale, but it really depends on what your objectives are. Now, with that being said, this is messaging that I constantly remind myself when I create content for this pillar. I'm trying to add value with tangible examples for people. So therefore, it showcases my achievement, and in the end, my objective is to build my name. Now, I've labeled here this pillar covers all my content on LinkedIn. This actually also covers other sorts of content on my other platforms, but I won't get into it too much. Now, this here is what I would want to link this pillar up to as to my services based on things like content strategy to showcase the achievements of the things that I've accomplished for my clients in order for any kind of interested target audiences to click through and find out more. Now, the second pillar I do have here is equip yourself, which is going to showcase predominantly on things like landing pages, blogs, as well as EDM. Obviously, it's more about education, and it's specifically geared towards knowledge and value that I can offer on content marketing. Now, like the above, it has a different set of objectives or goals that I want to achieve. I want to offer new knowledge in order to build myself as an industry thought leader. As you can tell here, it's predominantly based on my website. Now, my messaging is I'm not reaching in your wallet. I offer real help, and I do that through offering content tips, which is my blog, and in hopes to drive more traffic. Last but not least here, we have We're No Different. So this is really about my personal lifestyle and how I am as an authentic individual. It's all about daily sharings and videos. And this one really points towards my services such as mentorship. So as you can tell, it's very different. For anybody who's trying to devise their own content pillar as well as their content framework, not only is it important to connect your branding with your target audience persona and what their needs are, but also not to drift too far away from what you can actually provide them at the end of the day. Because a lot of people fall into the trap of just creating content that's trending or content that seems entertaining, and then it gets really difficult to kind of tie it all back into the whole business side of the conversation because people don't know why they're there, or they might just consume your content for entertainment's sake and leave afterwards. And that, in a sense, is really defeating the whole purpose of content marketing, because at the end of the day, it's still marketing. You still want to get your business messages across. Now moving forward here, as you can tell, it's all about entrepreneurial lifestyle in order for me to stay on top of mind. And this is predominantly on my Instagram account. I practice what I preach as my messaging, and I share things about my day-to-day in order to increase my reach and the awareness of my branding. Collectively speaking, this is my skeleton or my framework of all the content that I need to create. And if you were to look at my other video on content planning, here you would see that I do create at least 12 to 16 posts per platform per month, and sometimes even more. But all in all, what I want to highlight here is that you should definitely be identifying the types of content you should be creating on a framework that's similar to this. So you're constantly reminded and you know exactly why you're creating these content, where you're creating them, what they're out to achieve, and what messaging you're trying to reinforce. So that would be the first step. Now, once you have your content strategy and your content framework alongside with your content pillars set up, the next thing that I would highly suggest you to do is to establish your content funnel. Now, obviously, you might ask, Joyce, like, I'm only here to think about content adaptation. Why are you going through all these strategy things with me? Now, the first thing is because it's so important for you to know what your content are out striving for. Without that understanding, all you're doing is just pumping out more content from existing content. So that makes it even more difficult for you to justify any of your content efforts. Because if you were to search online right now for content adaptations, everybody is telling you to break apart your long format content. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't work, but it's really a little bit more complicated than that. As you can imagine, if all you have is repetition of the same content and it's reaching the same bunch of people, they're going to repel and feel like you're showing me the same thing over and over again, just maybe a shorter version or a snippet of it. That doesn't really do much good to anybody. So therefore, the second step that I really recommend you in doing is establishing your content funnel. Some of the key platforms that I operate in is LinkedIn, Instagram, as well as my website. Now, YouTube is a new addition to the family, and I also have things running in the back end, including EDM, so email newsletters, as well as Facebook, which is still there, but I'm not putting in as much priority on because of the content performances that I'm getting and a little bit more understanding of the target audience I'm reaching there. So let me just go through this with you and see how I've broken it down. Now, if you're aware of the whole idea of a content funnel, you always start with awareness, meaning you're starting with people that might not know you or is aware of the services that you provide. So in the awareness content, what you really want to do is to introduce yourself and to reach out. It's definitely something that would grasp their attention and really set out the tone and manner of your branding for them. Now for this here, what I've marked down is content marketer aware. What I want them to be aware of is that I am a content marketer. And what I've assigned here is LinkedIn under the content pillar of a legitimate mentor, trying to build my name. And this is what I'm trying to say to them. Hey, I'm Joyce. I do this, I've achieved this, and I believe this. Now going down, what we have is interest. For interest stage, what I want them to build a community or to attract collaborations. And that I'm trying to do with Instagram under my content pillar. We're no different by driving a lot more reach. Now here again, the messaging is I'm this kind of person. I can only do all of this because I didn't give up. Putting a pause here, you might question, Joyce, how did you come up with these messaging? I do this, I achieve this, or I can only do all of this because I didn't give up. Now these were all tested based on the content I've pushed out earlier on. So under the same content pillar, I've created various different pieces of content which I monitor, and I do a review at the end of every single month. And with there, I realized and spotted content patterns. Things that talks about what I do, what I achieve, and what I believe tends to do very well on my LinkedIn. Things that I talk about when it comes to not giving up, and my journey does very well on Instagram. Therefore, I'm able to consolidate them into these messagings and keep myself on track and constantly refine my content. Now going down, we have intent. Now intent before was only based on website. Now that I have an additional platform of YouTube, I've added that in as well. So it's all about equipping yourself, like what I'm doing right now, providing you with value and information as to content marketing, content strategy, content creation, so on and so forth. And what I'm trying to drive here is traffic as well as watch time. This is the messaging. Here's how you can do it too. Very straightforward, very simple. Most people might end after there or go straight into conversion. But what I've realized is that the longer the journey that you take your customer through, the higher quality they are, because the leads that do come in already have a very good understanding of who you are, what you believe in, and what you're able to provide. And that cuts a lot of my sales times or just onboarding a lead. Most of the time, they already know exactly what they want from me. So I think this is amazing when it comes to planning out a content funnel. I go into nurture stage where I have my email newsletters, and it's more about catching up with these people. How's it been? Because people who actually go in here either has consulted me through my free 30-minute diagnosis session, or they actually have become a client, or they're still thinking about it. So it's more about checking up. So that's why it's in the nurture phase. And then building trust. So these people usually get notified if I have any upcoming events or upcoming initiatives that I hope to see them there. So events, and that's about all about coming to see me. And at the end, staying on top of mind. So even if these people did not acquire my service for any sort of reason, didn't feel ready yet, I don't lose them. They're still within my funnel. It's just that I approached them differently. And what's interesting is my Facebook actually does a very good job with this. And therefore, my content there is all about I'm still here for you. So I still keep them updated, tell them what's going on, but I don't bombard them with all of the awareness content, all of the educational content anymore, because most likely they might see it already, or they know where to find me if they wanted these information. Each of these content on these platforms are serving me a different purpose. And for me, what I've realized is the best way is your adaptation should be on the content in the bottom. Because as you can imagine, if you kept adapting all these content on the top of your funnel, you risk repeating yourself a lot. So let's just say I'm a new lead. I came in, I realized Joyce is really cool. I want to check out all of her content, so I follow her on LinkedIn, and then I got directed to her Instagram. If I'm following her on both of these platforms and I end up seeing the same thing over and over again, it would feel like, maybe she's running out of content. I've already seen this. And therefore, it does jeopardize my reach as well as my engagement on one or both of these platforms, because they might easily dismiss my content the next time they see it. So for me, with a more strategic content marketing standpoint, what I feel is that awareness content should be created, and you should focus more on these in order to create and update consistently. And when you want to adapt these content, they should go more on the bottom funnel, in the sense that these people might have seen it in the beginning, but now they're reminded and say, oh, this is what has happened. Or these new content that's coming in that they're not looking at anymore because they already know me or they've already seen it, are seeing it still. So I don't lose out on these people, and I'm still keeping them informed. Now, the bottom part I'm not going to deep dive into. Again, it's still more about my tone and manner and who I'm targeting. For yourself, I think it's something that you must have. But if not, at least have your content funnel after setting out your content framework, pillar, as well as strategy, so you know which bulk of the content you should be looking at adapting. Now, lastly, we get into the stage of identifying where content adaptation can happen. Now, of course, I understand very few people would create their content documentations as detailed as I would, but definitely I want to set the best practice and fulfill my title of being a content marketer to its best. So therefore, I do have a lot of these slides and decks that really helps me remember and remind myself whenever I try to create content and look for gaps and look for ways to delegate, outsource, to incorporate AI into the whole content creation process. Now here, I'm not going to get into too much, but I do have specific content sources where I refer to when it comes to creating certain pieces of content. Now, based on the content framework, based on the content funnel, I already know exactly what content I need to create and where they're going to be distributed in order to achieve different goals. So here, what I have is I've further broken down each of the content types that I will be having to create on different platforms. Things like LinkedIn posts, IG Reel, IG post, GMB stands for Google My Business, YouTube, EDM, so on and so forth. Now, what you can tell here is I've listed out all of the content that I need to create on the top darker turquoise row that actually needs to come from the source. So whatever I'm basing it on, let's just say events or infographics or keywords and reports or links and community. Now let's just say that I need to create a LinkedIn post based on links and community. Same with, writing blogs, writing landing pages, YouTube videos, IG stories, WhatsApp group. So I also have a WhatsApp group. If you're interested in joining, the WhatsApp group is completely free. I have an amazing community of different entrepreneurs, people who are interested in marketing, that are receiving my daily weekday content marketing insights there. So leave me a comment below. Let me know if you want to join. I'll send you the link as well. And then GMB events as well as Facebook albums. So that's also quite interesting. I don't see a lot of people utilizing this tool on Facebook, but I love it because it organizes all of my photos. And if ever there was a media coverage or a PR or anybody looking for photos, I could just point them there. I could just right click and save. In any case, these are kind of the primary content pieces that I need to do myself because it includes assets that maybe I only have and things like that. Now, once I've set those out, what I can think about is how do these primary, let's just put it that way, primary content that I've created span into other sorts of content which covers the full funnel so that from awareness LinkedIn posts, it kind of goes down the funnel into things like Instagram and bottom of the funnel like EDMs. So here what you can see is with LinkedIn posts, I don't repurpose LinkedIn posts into more LinkedIn posts or LinkedIn posts into long form articles on LinkedIn. Because first of all, I've tried it once, it didn't really work that well, and it's not really saving me a lot of time either. Not garnering or getting me new insights because the first published post already did the work. However, what I realized is based on just observing some of the best practices and things that people are producing on Instagram, a lot of them actually cap screens their Twitter posts or things like their LinkedIn posts and repost that as an Instagram reel or an Instagram post. Now, in order for me to not replicate too many of my content, you can see marked here only selected high performing posts are going to be adapted into IG reel or IG post. Second thing, when it comes to blogs, right? Again, a lot of people use blogs to utilize their social media platforms. For me, I don't really do that because when I try and break down my blogs and put them onto my social media channels, for me at least, it feels like I'm doing it on purpose just to break something down. With that in mind, specifically knowing that my blogs are out here to drive traffic, breaking them down onto social media, let's just say on Instagram, I've realized that the click-through rate isn't that high anyway, so it's not really serving the purpose of the objective of this piece of content, so that's why I don't do it. Now, of course, if your objective is slightly different, then it might make sense for you, but I don't really find it being a natural fit. Most importantly, just a lot of social media platforms don't want you to direct people outside of their platform, so giving them a link to click onto and drive them somewhere else. It's not preferred by the algorithm anyways. So perhaps it's something that people with more followers or really, really high engagement could consider. But for myself, I don't recommend that. And when it comes to blogs, then what do I actually do? So I actually adapt them into my EDMs, as well as what's interesting is my YouTube shorts. So making something that's static and word-based into something that's moving is very different. So even if I'm the same person and I see it as a blog before and now I see it as a YouTube shorts, I don't feel like, oh, it's the same thing again. The work that I need to do in order to produce this YouTube short does not start from scratch. I have something I base it on. And of course, again, if you find that certain blogs have better performance, then really milk that. Adapt those, right? Don't bother too much with blogs that isn't really working too well because honestly speaking, even though the SEO or the search intent might be slightly different across different platforms, I found that the overall mentality is quite the same. So if it doesn't work one place, unless you kind of really spice it up somewhere else, it's not really going to make a lot of difference either. So I record a video, maybe just summarizing 3 of the points I've mentioned. And what's great is if you go and follow my YouTube or come into my channel, then I have my links in my description boxes as well, so it might come back to my blog and it might help me drive traffic. So that makes more sense when it comes to the objective. The second thing is my EDM. So EDM, I have 2 kind of lists. I have what we call a nurture list as well as an announcement list. So announcement list is just announcements, very self-explanatory. I tell people about what's happening. I have my latest video. I'm going to this event. And for EDM nurture, it's slightly different. So I'm nurturing these people and I want to give them as most value as I can. And it's an automated email chain. So I update that maybe every half a year or so. with blog posts that has worked very well. So I kind of replace poorer performing click-through rate emails with better blogs. So hopefully to increase the click-through rate and more visits to my blogs. So as you can tell, all these still drive that same objective of what my blogs are out to drive. And I ensure that it's not repeated in a way that the same audience is going to see it a load of time and cause them to fatigue over it. With my landing page, what's interesting is I actually use them as my GMB posts, so my Google My Business posts. I don't do this very often, but I think it's still important for me to kind of update it every now and then, because when you search for my business, these posts also come up underneath my profile. Google My Business posts are great when it comes to answering questions that people do have about your business or your industry or the service and things like that, because of just how Google is. They want people to be providing information and value that answers questions. So because my landing page, obviously it answers different questions, it's very easy to adapt into Google My Business posts. So all I really need to do is just copy and paste and just drive it to the link and it's done. So that's another easy kind of adaptation that I do. YouTube videos, it also goes into EDM Nurture YouTube Shorts as well as EDM announcements. Now I am still experimenting, let's just say, when it comes to YouTube videos directly into YouTube Shorts. But YouTube videos as announcement, as nurture, call to action links work really well, especially for my EDMs. I've seen that email newsletters with images on the top that is indicative of a video always drives better click-through rate. So I think my audiences want to watch me talk. And again, it's still fulfilling my YouTube video objectives because they're all trying to drive to my YouTube channel, which the objective is to drive viewership. So that's great. Here, IG Stories WhatsApp group is very hard to adapt into anything because that's really pretty much a discussion, and this is just snippets of my life. I don't really see it having a lot of impact. However, what's interesting is the information I share on Instagram stories and the things I share in WhatsApp groups are interchangeable. So if I do find an infographic which is interesting, I might share it on my Instagram stories as well as on my WhatsApp group, and vice versa. So then it's pretty much just one infographic completing two parts of my distribution channel as well. But this doesn't directly lead to this nor this to that. Events here again, GMB events and Facebook album. If you're familiar with Google My Business, there is this call to action link that you can include for events as well. I've used that for my previous slasher event. If you don't know that, be sure to check that out as well. But that's really easy. You just kind of plug in all the event details or the link to purchase ticket, and then that gets posted. Facebook albums, again, like I mentioned, just a great tool to organize everything. If you remember from my previous section here talking about the content funnel, is that I don't really prioritize my Facebook that much because it's more about the bottom funnel, where I just keep people who have considered my service but hasn't actually converted yet on there with announcements and just updates. But what I found there as well is that any video around 20 seconds work really, really well for me. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense if any kind of YouTube Shorts, which is maximum of 1 minute, can be further trimmed down into around 20-30 seconds. I'll also post that on Facebook. And if ever they were interested, they might land back on my YouTube and, again, increase the viewership that I'm looking for. So as you can tell, it might be very different from the other resources that you found online when it comes to content adaptation, because I'm not just telling you to break stuff apart and then regurgitate it and reframe it and things like that. It's more of a strategic level, looking at content adaptation and seeing if adapting these content is able to help you fulfill the whole funnel and complete the full funnel conversation better, as well as, of course, ease a bit of the pressure and stress with creating a lot of new content, and to help you really further drive the objective that that specific distribution channel or that specific piece of content is out to strive for. I mentioned in the beginning here, these are posts that I need to digest myself because I have the content sources I need to add in my point of view and things like that. But then blogs and landing pages are really based on keywords and reports, and I can easily delegate that if I wanted to, right? So therefore, it's included in this outsource section that I've kind of framed off. These are some of the content that I can actually just freely, easily outsource because I know exactly what they're out to do, what they're being adapted from, and what I actually need to pass on to the content creator or the person who might take over that role for me, because everything is already set out. For this specific video, we were really talking about AI. And when it comes to AI, you need to understand that you need to be the one who can supplement the information that the AI platform needs for them to spit out the content that you need. And within this adaptation framework, I realized that it can be done by AI much quicker than I would have done it is EDM. EDM nurture, EDM announcement, as well as my YouTube short. Now, all that's left to do is for you to find that right AI writing assistant to help you adapt your existing content. Apart from the ones that I've tested in this previous video, I have something else I want to share with you all today. Shakespeare.ai is another AI writing tool that helps entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, digital marketers, freelancers, startups, and small medium-sized business owners to create content. Apart from creating long-form blogs, they also help create social media posts, ad copies, sales copies, and even product descriptions, perfect for those who own an e-commerce shop. So be sure to check them out with the link that I have in the description below to enjoy a free 10,000 word trial with me. And that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the video and got a little bit more inspiration and knowledge as to how you can tackle content adaptation and content strategy, content pillars, content framework, as well as content funnels. Be sure to leave a comment if you're interested in joining my WhatsApp group. And of course, do subscribe, like, and comment, and let me know if you have any questions. See you next time.